I'd like to welcome all of you here this morning for our OMDREB Leadership Day. It's going to be a fun day and also a day of lots of learning. So we'll get started. There are a few more people that will probably come in, but we're just going to get going because I know you all have important things to do today other than being here. So my name is Jenny Kodolak, and I'm co-chair of the Leadership Development Committee, and it's our committee that has been helping the staff implement this event for you today. My job is to introduce our first speaker of the day, our morning speaker, and that's Elaine LaChapelle, and she's right here at the front, and you're all going to
messing around.
Yeah, and you're all going to have lots of fun. It's going to be interactive this morning, and Elaine oversees the leadership development programs and initiatives at OREA. She's a certified training and development professional, and she's received a gold award from the Canadian Society of Training and Development for her design work. She's a popular speaker for companies and associations, and she's known for her informative and inspirational style. If you go on YouTube, you'll find lots of videos of Elaine. They're very informative, and so she's a real little superstar that we have with us today. And Elaine has 23 years of experience in adult training. She's trained over 4,000 leaders and service professionals in Canada, the States, and also internationally. So the courses that are offered by OREA take new volunteer leaders from their first introduction to organized real estate through 5 phases of learning, and you're all able to get involved with those phases. Leadership 100 is free and it's online, so hopefully you'll take advantage of that. It's after today. I think you'll find some value in it. And I'd just like to welcome you all here again today, and let's have some fun.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate it. I'm not anything yet. Applaud. Well, that's a fine introduction. Always nice to hear people talk about you. I love that. I'm with the Ontario Real Estate Association, and I'm here to spend a little bit of time with you on volunteer leadership, and particularly your role as a volunteer here at OMDREB. And I'm going to be speaking more from a general nature, and then I understand this afternoon you'll get much more specifics about your committees and how they'll operate and some of the specifics around your center. Okay, so let's get into this. A survey was conducted on volunteering. It was actually from a 2010 survey on giving, volunteering, and participating. And I found it interesting in response to this question, so I thought I would share it to you, about why people volunteer. So in this case, the top, absolutely the top, and by I think a significant difference, people want to make a contribution. They want to volunteer feeling that they're going to have an impact, that what I do is going to actually make a difference to somebody somewhere. Number one. Number two, I want to use these skills and experiences that I have developed in my life. I want to apply them in a way different from that I might apply at home or at work. And for a personal cause, maybe something personally affects you. All of you are personally affected, of course, here because this is your business, this is your livelihood. But if someone volunteered for the Cancer Society, it may be because they have someone in their family with cancer. So very personal reasons that people give to explore their strengths and network with others. And you can see, and we've seen, certainly since I got involved in this area of the field, is that people really want to make a difference. And one of the things that organizations, associations like OMDREB want to do is to allow you to do that. They want to enable you to make a difference. They want to enable you to make a contribution. And for that reason, that's partly why you're here today, but also why OMDREB has developed things the way they have over your term as a volunteer so that you can continue to contribute in a meaningful way. That's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today. So we'd like to find out, why do you volunteer? If you're volunteering here at OMDREB, why are you volunteering here? Or if you generally volunteer and haven't decided to volunteer at OMDREB yet, then you can kind of answer that accordingly. You can select as many as you want. Every answer you click is going to register up here. So not just one answer in this list. All right, let's see what you said. Whoa, that's a big one. D, to network or meet people. Fabulous. That's an absolute benefit that people gain from volunteering, no doubt about it. Networking with other people, especially in fields where it can be a bit of a lone kind of job. And so people often do this to make those connections, to network and to meet other people.
I think there's one missing. I think sometimes people volunteer because somebody asks them. And if you don't ask them, they might be thinking about it, but then they think, well, maybe I really don't have anything to offer.
Yes.
They hesitate, but if you ask, because I think that's the experience some of our directors have had in getting volunteers for their committees, and even the Leadership Development Committee asking people to become a director. Well, yeah, I thought about it, but I wouldn't have done it unless you asked, and somebody asks.
It's huge,
So,
you're absolutely right. And that's sort of often the in to people actually deciding to join as a volunteer. That's a very good point. Inherent in them saying yes, maybe one of these things.
Yeah.
But you're right, that's so critical that we talk to people about it. And if your volunteer experience is positive, then you're more likely to tell other people that it's positive too. And of course, that's a good thing for everybody. Fabulous. The next one was C, to take on a new challenge. Super. That's great. And you certainly expand yourself. We'll be talking about that later.
And much the same as the reason I wanted to get back. I've been a while, and I'd like to get back.
Thank you for reminding me, guys, and I
Believe me, I will.
And I made it for you too. I said,
Let's talk a little bit about what you can expect as a volunteer. And I'm speaking more generally from associations. I know a little bit about some of the things that OMDREB does, but you'll be learning more, as I said this afternoon, about some of the specifics. Some of the things you should be able to expect as a volunteer, you should be able to expect to contribute. You should be able to expect to contribute in a way that truly makes a difference, where your thoughts are listened to, where you're able to bring your experience to the table, where you're able to help make recommendations. And that is an important thing. You said that was people say that's the number one. We want to make sure that happens. And the committees and the advisory groups and the various different ways people can volunteer are designed so that you actually have something meaningful to do. Certainly you can expect to gain skills and experiences as a volunteer, and that's a big one for many people as well. As soon as you're on a committee, you are definitely going to develop your skills around building consensus, handling conflict, contributing, participating at meetings, dealing with the challenges and disagreements. All of those skills, of course, who can't use those in your life? And those are the kinds of skills you can definitely develop as you participate in committees and boards. To explore your strengths, I know that OMDREB, as well as most associations, try to make sure that someone ends up volunteering in an area they feel good about, they feel they can contribute. You know, I'm really good with numbers, get me in something finance, you know, or I'm really good with people, make sure I get on that, leadership development committee or whatever it might be. So your ability to kind of hone in on where you think you can be best used helps you to build on your strengths, and that's important to share with any association. You should expect to be able to network and meet other people. I don't think there's too many volunteer positions here at OMDREB where you wouldn't be doing that, and particularly that feedback was good. That's something you really want to be able to do, and that's something that OMDREB can look at and make sure that you're getting those opportunities to network and to meet other people. You will make new friends. I don't hear too many people talk about their volunteering time without coming out of it with some new friends, which is also nice. And you can expect as a volunteer to have your questions answered. So today obviously is something we're hoping to answer a lot of the questions, so both this morning and this afternoon. But at any time, if you're unsure, I know that the staff and the other boards, the board of directors at OMDREB wants to hear. So don't ever sit quietly and say, oh, I won't ask, or geez, maybe I was supposed to know that already. No, ask. It's the most important thing, and then you'll be comfortable knowing what you need to do. Anything else from your volunteer experience? Anything else you think you can expect or should expect as a volunteer? I think we've hit on the major ones there. All right, so everything we do today is going to hopefully be designed so that you can meet those expectations, and so can OMDREB as well. Good. All righty, we're going to shift a little bit and start talking about organized real estate, to do a little bit of knowledge around the industry, around associations and boards like yourself. So back to these clickers, all right? So these questions do have a right and wrong answer. We know you may not know these answers. That's okay. That's okay. That's why, it's anonymous. You don't have to worry about it. But look at the multiple choices you're given and see what you think might be the most likely answer in these cases, and we'll learn along the way. So let's start. How many real estate boards or associations like OMDREB are there in Ontario? How many are there?
There's none like us, Elaine.
Oh, very good. Very good. You guys are quick. All right. Oh, we're all over the map on this one. Very good. Let's see what the answer is. 40. The reason that D probably got a lot is there used to be 42 as of about a year and a half ago. And a couple of boards had merged, brought themselves together to create a larger board, and that's why we're at 40 now instead of 42. Very good. So lots of people out there like yourselves, lots of organizations doing similar things. How many realtors do you think there are in Ontario? How many realtors in Ontario? Oh, yeah, you knew that. All right. How about how many people do you think volunteer? We've estimated, because we don't have an exact number, we've estimated by surveys and things, how many people volunteer at real estate associations across the province? Again, people like yourselves. Ah, you're pretty close, pretty good in there. We've estimated about 2,500 when you add the people on boards and committees in each association. It's a fair good chunk. We have a conference coming up, and many of them attend that conference, and so we get to meet some of them, and some we never meet. And in what year was OMDREB established? Let's talk about your association for a minute. Anyone know? Hint, I think there's an anniversary happening.
How old is Marta?
29.
29, let's see. Alrighty.
That was mean.
Oh, I think that's pretty good. You guys know your stuff. 1954. Very good.
Thank you. There you go.
Okay, and I think this is the last one, if I'm not mistaken. When did OMDREB open an office in Milton?
There is
All right. Oh, you guys are too good. Too good. All right, here we go. Most of you were obviously around when that was happening. Be on the board of directors. That's their power, their ability to empower a group of people. The board of directors decide what are the right things to do with input from those committees. And then the staff implement the more decisions by deciding how to do it, how to get things done, and how to accomplish what it is the board of directors wants to accomplish. So everyone kind of lines up, plays their role, and if that is the case, then it works really well. In some cases, we get out of our roles and start doing things other people should be doing, and that can be problematic. So we're going to get into talking about roles and responsibilities to make sure you're comfortable with that. All right, so you got the big picture. Now we're going to go back into some quiz questions. And again, you may not know the answer to these questions, but you get the drill. I think you should be able to come up. You actually did very well on that last one. So this is all around staff, roles and responsibility, who does what. So who would act as official spokesperson of the association? Who do you think is the one that talks to the media or the press, answers questions, represents the association? Alrighty, very good. That is your president, absolutely. And most boards, I don't know about OMDREB, but most boards try to really adhere to that. If a board of directors is approached by a media, they are to defer to the president, and that allows this association to have one voice, and a voice that is in support of the board and its decisions. Good. At times, the executive officer might speak to the media or press if it was about something like board offices moving, or something around the actual operation of the association. Sometimes an executive officer is speaking on behalf of the association, but usually the president. Who would make recommendations to the board of directors? All right, committees and task forces, very good, absolutely. But there's another one as well. The executive officer may also make recommendations to the board. The executive officer is involved in things like helping to create agendas, what topics will be discussed, and they make recommendations to the board too on things, their responsibilities, things that need to take place according to bylaws. So the executive officer also plays a role in that. Excellent. Who would oversee property management of the association facility? Buildings. Excellent. Executive officer and staff, absolutely. Board of directors don't have to worry about that one, luckily. Some associations are small enough that they actually have a building committee or a committee that looks after the building, which is a pretty small association. Who would approve the annual budget? Who approves the annual budget? Very good. Oh, you guys are so smart. The budget is usually prepared by staff, presented by the executive officer, and then voted on by the board of directors. Very good. And who would approve bylaw changes? Who approves bylaw changes? Ah, okay. It's actually the membership. Board of directors cannot unilaterally approve changes to the bylaws. The board of directors decides the bylaws need to get changed, prepares everything, and then presents it to the membership at an annual general meeting, and that needs to be approved by the membership. And that's part of that. I'm sorry?
Because it has to come, first it comes from the bylaw committee. They will wordsmith, and then they will take it to the board of directors. The board of directors has to approve it at their meeting, and then it's ratified by the members. If the members don't ratify it,
It's gone.
it's gone. And then there's a difference, I don't know, are you gonna talk about MLS rules and regs?
No.
Okay, so can I explain the difference?
Yes, please turn around and speak to the group. That'd be great, Marta.
Okay, so the bylaws are, it deals with committees, structure of the board of directors, elections, how what the board constitution is. And then there is a set of guidelines that you have to function with, and that is your MLS rules and regulations. And there is a difference because when a bylaw is changed, it comes from the committee to the board of directors and then to all of you. So typically we only have, we're down to kind of one membership meeting a year, and that's the AGM. So the board of directors can approve a bylaw in January, but it actually doesn't take effect until December, until we get it to all of you. So with MLS rules and regulations, the process is different because those are your guidelines for your actual buying and selling and trading in real estate. So things like how soon you have to post your MLS listing, you know, keys, multiple offers, all of those things, that is covered under the MLS rules and regulations. And what happens with those is typically it comes from the MLS committee, and then it will go to the board of directors, they will approve it, and then we will tell you this rule is now in effect. So as soon as the directors approve it, you have to start working with that rule. But there's a little twist to that because in December when we have the AGM, we would formally present that to all of you to ratify. So it's kind of weird because you could be functioning under a rule for 6 or 8 or 10 months, and then you get to the AGM and you say, we don't like this, you throw it out, it's gone. So it doesn't, you have to abide by it as soon as the directors approve it, but then until you ratify it, it doesn't actually become permanent, if you will. Yeah. So it's a little bit different than the bylaw.
It sounds good. Yes?
So this is like a special case, if you can't call a special meeting?
You can do, we sometimes, you know, we don't typically do that with MLS rules and regs, but with a bylaw, if it's something that's really critical, important, we may not wait, we may call a meeting in the middle of the year or whenever, when we need it really to get sanctioned by the members, we would do that. We haven't done it for a while, but yeah, absolutely, we've done it before.
Excellent. very important to understand how decisions get made and what documents or rules or regulations oversee those decisions. In some cases, boards of directors can act fairly unilaterally with input from committees, and in other cases, their hands are tied. They may be overseen by anything from the Corporations Act to other, rules and regulations that require. Advisory groups and task forces. That's where we want to put our closer look today. So let's just take a look. I want to be sure you have a really good understanding of the role of committees, task forces, and advisory groups. So a couple things, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is how things normally work, and I've checked with OMDREB. I think these are all correct, but Marta will jump in if I have any of this wrong. Generally, a chairperson of a committee is appointed by a president, and oftentimes that chairperson is on the board of directors, but not always, and that chairperson may not be a board member, and that certainly is allowed. Members then of those committees are then appointed to accomplish that purpose or mandate, and I know associations work hard to try to, as I say, fit people well into the committees they're part of. Not good with numbers, stay off the finance committee, that kind of thing. So the members are appointed. There's usually a staff liaison that works with that committee to do things like provide support, information, continuity from year to year, so this committee knows what last year's committee was looking at or what work they had done or any research that they had done. All committees report to the board of directors. Now, some associations will have staff committees, but they aren't as often made up of volunteers, but they can be. So staff may also choose to have committees. Marta, does your staff develop any committees, or is it all the board of directors?
It's pretty much the board of directors.
Yeah. That's most common.
I did want to interject on, the chairperson is appointed by the president. The members also are appointed to the committees. Both of those get approved at a director's meeting, so there is a formality to it.
Okay.
So it gets recorded, and there is a staff liaison to provide support and information, but we sort of have a two-tier approach too, because we have staff who are resources because they've been around a while, they have a lot of experience, so they would be the staff liaison, and then we also have like a recording secretary. So there could be, in most cases, there's two staff who support each committee and would attend meetings. Oh, and yeah, Patty did point one other thing. We've started a different process the last couple of years, and it's starting to work well for us. Typically in the past, we've had a director or someone who's appointed as the chair lead a committee, but what we started to do last year and this year is also designate someone as a co-chair. So there's an automatic backup person if the chair isn't available. It also helps us when someone chairs a committee and they're not on the board of directors. We try to make sure the co-chair is a director.
Okay.
So there's always like a direct conduit between the committee and the board of directors, so that person can report back to the board and keep them up to speed. And it also is providing that person with experience. So if they're going to be on the board for a 2-year term, they get experience and then can maybe lead that committee the following year. And it also broadens their experience just on all of the committees that the board runs. So.
Excellent. That's a great best practice kind of thing. Yeah.
It's working well.
Excellent. Good. Good. Yeah. And as we said, the main goal of committees, task forces, advisory groups is to make recommendations to the board of directors in most cases. The authority of any committee is in its mandate. The mandate determines what it is you as a committee or advisory group or task force is responsible for doing, and that's an important thing to be sure you understand. I like this because it talks about the differences between the board of directors and committees, and it just helps in a really nutshell way kind of see the differences, and they are very different between a board of directors and a committee. So the board's the second column, committees is the right column. Members of the board are elected. Of course, members of committees are appointed. The board reports to membership. Committees report to the board. Duties are for the board are defined by the bylaws, but in most cases, or in many cases, for committees are defined by the board. The exception would be as if a standing committee was in the bylaws, that in that case would direct it. The basic role of the board, and this is really in a nutshell from our perspective, is to make decisions. That is the main role of a board, is to make decisions. The main role of a committee is to recommend to those decisions. The meeting style of a board is generally fairly formal. Most boards follow Robert's Rules of Orders and proper voting procedures. When you get to a committee, you often find that the committee is actually run more informally, more brainstorming, more building consensus, that kind of thing. And consequently, the chair's style at a board is generally neutral. Often on a board, the president will, or the chair, who is usually the president, will not vote, only to break a tie. So the chair is more of a facilitator of a board meeting. The chair at a committee is often very involved in the discussion and the decision making, and those roles are not nearly so formal or formal defined. Can we confirm that? Would the president generally only vote to break a tie in your board?
Yes.
Okay. And lastly, decisions at the board are made by vote, so they may work to build consensus. In many cases, that's really a good idea to work to build consensus at a board before the vote is taken, but the vote is the way the decisions are made. In the committee, again, it's normally more by consensus. So it's coming up with a recommendation, working together to be comfortable with that recommendation, and then moving it forward. Again, can I defer, do your committees use a voting structure?
It's kind of a mix. Sometimes it depends on the issue.
Okay.
If it's something that is weighty, they might put a motion together, so they take a formal vote, but a lot of times it's consensus.
Okay, sounds good. So it sounds like your board aligns with very much what the normal difference between committees and boards would be. Only something that needs to take place at a meeting to make it effective. One thing, something. People have to show up. People have to show up.
On time. On time.
People have to show up and on time.
time.
Absolutely. So that work can get done. Meetings need to have a start time, they need to have an end time. They need to know when you're going to be done. And that end time helps to focus a meeting to get things done, to keep conversations focused, to keep discussions focused. Absolutely. Was a hand back here? Okay, there. Yes.
Agenda.
They need an agenda. Yeah, the agenda is going to determine what's discussed, and it's a chairperson's ability to control that meeting, to keep it on track. With no agenda, it's hard to say we're off topic. Agenda needs to be focused, specific, and aligned to the strategic plan, to what it is you want to accomplish. Good. What else needs to take place at a meeting for it to be effective? Yeah?
Full participation.
Yeah, full participation. Why full participation?
Can't be one-sided. We want input for everybody.
If you've ever been at those meetings where one person does all the talking, they've got a strong opinion and it keeps getting heard, and other people's opinion isn't heard. Very important for all voices to be heard at meetings, particularly these committee meetings and task forces that are trying to feed the recommendations. Partly that's the chair's responsibility to make sure if someone's quiet, we haven't heard from you, would you like to interject on what some of your thoughts are? And partly it's your responsibility to make sure you speak up, that you take the opportunity to speak and to share some of your thoughts and experiences that will help. Good. All right, those are a few things will get us started. Participate, thank you. You're such a nice segue person there. We believe that is number one, to participate in meetings, to be an active part of meetings. Be guided by the strategic plan, as we know, be aware of it, as we've already talked about. Be prepared. Most people have something they need to review, study, consider, talk to people about whatever prior to a meeting, so that when you come, you're ready to go. You're informed, you're ready to go and have some of these discussions. We encourage you to be prepared. And lastly, follow meeting procedure. Now, as we know, committee meetings are a little less formal than a board of directors meetings, but there's still meeting procedures that we need to follow. And I want to start looking at some of those. And that is why we have this lovely video that I think we're finally going to
Elaine,
be
can
good about.
I just add one more to your
Oh,
list
yes,
here?
absolutely.
Accountability. So if you are on a committee and you take something on, then do it. And if you think you can't do it, then don't accept the responsibility at the outset, or else talk to the chair or somebody else and get some help. Because what happens is, if you've accepted a task and you don't do it, it puts pressure on the chair, and it means somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack for you. And as long as you keep people informed, talk to the chair, don't be uncomfortable, don't just think, oh my God, I haven't done it, and hope it's going to go away. It's not. It makes a bigger problem for the whole group. So if you're going to make the commitment, you're going to serve, you're going to take it on, then follow through.
Sorry, Marty, yes, I did need to. I'll let Marty decide if we take those after lunch or if we do them before lunch. How can you make your volunteer time most rewarding? I just have a few pieces of advice, and this comes from pretty much mostly what we've talked about this morning. Absolutely share. You're here for a reason. You want to contribute. This board needs your input, needs your ideas. Don't be Andy. By all means, don't be Andy. Discover new things, take on new challenges. Don't be afraid to get yourself into something you're not aware of or don't know how to do, because there's all kinds of staff that will support you, all kinds of other volunteer leaders that will support you. Have fun, socialize, meet people, network. It's a people business and it's a people association, so I know that's something that will help. Absolutely contribute, come with your ideas. Talk to other members before you come to a meeting. Get ideas from others if you're not sure you have ideas to bring to the table. That can always work well, and hopefully you'll enjoy your time here.